everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new, and welcome to my top 10 books of 2022 so far. So I've recently been filling in this little graphic on my Bookstagram to keep track of my favourite books of the year. It's just a little graphic that was made by Books with Buzzy, I believe, and it allows you to put in your favourite book of each month and then compete with other favourite books of the year, so that by the end of the year you will have one favourite book. Now I do intend to do a video on that at the end of the year and talk about my favourite books and why certain books won against other books, all that jazz, but it got me thinking about my favourite books of the year so far and how they rank, and I thought I would just go ahead today and go through my favourite books that I've read so far in 2022. I have chosen 10 books. Some of these do not feature on the graphic just because there are certain months where I read lots of 5-star books and other months where I didn't read any, so it does seem unfair that they don't feature on that graphic. That's why I want to talk a bit more about them today in this video. So I do have quite a mix here. I've got a few romances, a couple of fantasies, and of course a few thrillers as well. If you've been watching my channel for a while, a lot of these will probably not come as too much of a surprise because I've either talked about them in reading vlogs or wrap-ups. But yeah, today we're just going to go through them and talk about my feelings about them, and hopefully you guys can get some good book recommendations. So without further ado, if you would like to hear all about my top 10 books of 2022 so far, then just keep watching. I'm not going to talk about these in any particular order. I just have a stack here and I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. So the first book I have here is Hex by Jenny Fagan. This is actually my top #1 favourite book of the year so far according to that Instagram graphic, so this is the one that other books for the next few months are trying to beat. In this one we follow Gallant Duncan, who was a real woman back in 1591. On the 4th of December she was in a cell being treated absolutely disgustingly brutally and being put to death the next day for witchcraft. This is amidst the absolute hysteria at that time. Women who didn't quite fit the norm were being persecuted for witchcraft. This is part of the North Berwick witch trials, I believe. And in Hex, on this night, Gallant Duncan is visited by Iris, who comes from the future back to speak to her and keep her company on her final night, and to tell her that in our day and age, women are still being persecuted for who they are and what they believe. And this honestly is one of the most emotional books I've ever read. It is, I don't think it's even 100 pages long, but my lord does it pack a punch. It's so beautifully written. It's full of real women's history, Scottish history, and of course has a really good feminist undertone to it as well. I did cry at this one. I say it all the time that it takes a lot for me to cry at a book. This one stayed with me for weeks afterwards. It still has a very special place in my heart and it still makes me feel emotional whenever I think about it. It is just one of the most beautiful books I've ever read and I would recommend it to absolutely anyone. Next up I have got Gallant by Ve Schwab. This is maybe my 4th book by Ve Schwab, but one of my favourite things about her is that each book she writes is different and written for a different audience with different interests and different personalities. In this one we follow Olivia, who is a young orphan living at a girls' school at the start, and then she receives a letter from her uncle telling her that she has family at Gallant. However, upon hearing this information and arriving at Gallant, she finds out that her uncle has actually passed away and that this letter was sent years ago. It is now just her cousin and the servants who are living on this grand estate. The cousin does not really want her there but permits her to stay on the conditions that she does not go out after dusk and she doesn't go onto the other side of the crumbling wall at the bottom of the garden. For, at the beginning, unknown reasons. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to give any spoilers away for this one, but this is again such a hauntingly beautiful book. I absolutely adored the gothic setting in this and the way that she incorporated her idea of what ghosts or ghouls are. I thought it was a very original way of describing ghosts and ghouls, and again it was very gothic. The writing is absolutely stunning, full of absolutely beautiful imagery. Olivia also has one really really important possession, which is her mother's old journal, which speaks about her time at Gallant. But as the journal continues, it seems as if her mum is sort of deteriorating into madness because the journal begins to no longer make any sense. And we get little snippets of this journal in the book, which again, absolutely beautiful aesthetically and content wise. For me, this one was sitting on a 4.5 star for the majority of the book, but I absolutely adored the ending and that bumped it right up to 5 stars. I know a lot of people disagree on that and they actually went the opposite way when they read the ending, but I'm going to use the same phrase again. I thought the ending was hauntingly beautiful and I even shed another little tear for it. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars, as are all the books in this video obviously. Just a beautiful, haunting and gothic tale. Next up I have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is of course a thriller and it is an absolutely iconic one. In this one we follow a young psychiatrist whose name I cannot remember right now, but he moves to a very particular institution because he would like to work with a woman named Alicia. And Alicia is a very special case because 6 years ago she shot her husband in the head 5 times and has not spoken a word ever since. So no one has ever been able to find out why she did this, what really happened, and why she no longer speaks. So this psychiatrist takes it upon himself. He wants to get to the bottom of this. He thinks he can work with her and make her speak again, and we follow his journey in doing this. This is one of the most cleverly written thrillers I have ever read. The narrator is a very unreliable narrator, which is one of my absolute favourite tropes, and he is one of the best. I was constantly switching back and forth throughout the book between trusting him and not trusting a word he said. It really reminded me of Holden Caulfield from The Catcher in the Rye, which is obviously a huge compliment to Alex Michaelides because Holden Caulfield is like the ultimate unreliable narrator in fiction. I also absolutely adored the plot twist to this one. There were so many little seeds planted throughout, but I still did not quite get it, and the ending was a shocking one. I was absolutely hooked the whole way through this and raced through it and would definitely recommend it to any thriller lovers out there. Next up I have got The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This one I did not expect to love anywhere near as much as I did. I went into this one quite wary, as I do with many TikTok hyped books. This was actually part of a vlog that I did where I read as many TikTok hyped romances in 24 hours as I could, and I ended up absolutely adoring this book. We follow Lucy in this one, who is a young girl who works at a publisher's, and she works alongside Joshua Templeman, who she hates, and I mean hates. They have all sorts of games that they play, like the staring game, the copycat game, all these games just to piss each other off really. And then a new job promotion comes up and they are both battling for this promotion, and the story goes from there. This is obviously an enemies to lovers, but it is one of the best enemies to lovers books I've ever read because it is actually enemies to lovers. It's not just, oh, I kind of don't like him for a couple of pages and then they're in love. In this one, she really does detest him, or at least she believes she does to begin with, and it is written so well to show her anger at him. But it's also some of the best sexual tension I've read because underneath that she clearly does fancy the pants off him, and I just absolutely loved it. Raced through it and probably would have done even if it wasn't part of a 24-hour challenge. Definitely 100% worth the TikTok hype. Next up I have another TikTok hype book from that same vlog. That is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Obviously I got lucky in that vlog and it turns out I like type TikTok romances, what can I say? In this one we follow Catalina Martin, who desperately needs a date to her sister's wedding in Spain, and she is scrambling to find one when her nemesis, her work nemesis, Aaron Blackford, offers to do the job for her. Of course she's shocked by this because as far as she's aware they hate each other, but she doesn't have any other options, so she takes him along as her fake boyfriend, and once again the story goes from there. This is again enemies to lovers but also fake dating, my two favourite romance tropes. This one really reminded me of The Wedding Date with, is it Deborah Messing and Dermot Mulroney, I want to say, the movie. This was quite similar to that in many respects with the fake dating at a wedding, that sort of vibe. Once again I thought the actual enemies to lovers part of this was done quite well. It wasn't just a couple of pages of not liking each other and then falling in love. The tension did continue throughout. Once again the sexual tension in this was brilliant, and Aaron Blackford is one of my all-time favourite love interests. I adore the man. We all need an Aaron Blackford in our lives. Yeah, if you're looking for a fast-paced, steamy, enemies to lovers, fake dating romance, then you need to pick this one up. Next up, I have another romance. Clearly I've been on a bit of a romance kick this year. I have November 9 by Colleen Hoover. If you know me, you will know that Colleen Hoover is one of my favourite authors. I just eat up her books. I love them. I mostly always cry at them, which again, as I've mentioned, is quite a feat for me, but no one gets me in my feels like Colleen Hoover does. I get so invested in her characters. In this one, we have Fallon and Ben, and they meet one day on November 9th and immediately hit it off, but unfortunately Fallon is moving across country the next day, so they decide to go their separate ways and come back and see each other again a year from now on November 9th and see how things have changed. And over time, over various different relationships, trials and tribulations, they continue to meet every year on the same day, November 9th, until one day Fallon discovers that there may be more to this story for Ben than she first thought. And as always, this is a hugely emotional read, just like all of Colleen Hoover's books, but I absolutely adored Fallon and Ben. I fell in love with them from page one and I continue to be invested in their romance throughout. I don't want to say too much about this because I feel like I would spoil it, because there's so much in this that you just don't see coming, but I think is beautifully done and, as always, confronts some really serious issues but is done with care, which is what Colleen Hoover always does time and time again. And yeah, I just absolutely love this. This one also, because Ben is a novelist, there's a lot about writing and fiction and storytelling, and I always love when books talk about books. So yeah, absolutely love this. This is my favourite Colleen Hoover book I have read to date. On the subject of books that talk about books, next up I have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was my first Emily Henry book and now I need to read the rest of hers. This was incredible. Once again, this was a shock to me. I did not expect to like it anywhere near as much as I did. In this one, we follow Nora, who she is a literary agent and she has again a work nemesis, Charlie, who is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers. And Nora goes through yet another horrible breakup. She is putting her entire life into her work. So her sister decides to take her on holiday to this quaint little town that is actually the setting of one of their favourite books. And while they're there, they have a bucket list of things they have to do that are all things that would usually happen in a romance book. So like date a lumberjack, save a dying business, and other romance book related feats. But when she is there, who pops up but Charlie? And she tries to continue with this bucket list while her work nemesis struts about the town, annoying her just as much as always. Again, this is clearly enemies to lovers. Again, it is enemies to lovers done well. One of my favourite things about this book is the top tier witty banter between Nora and Charlie. I thought they were absolutely hilarious, the way they just bite back and forth at each other. I am all for witty banter in a romance. It kind of reminded me of Talia Hibbert's writing in that respect, and Talia Hibbert again is one of my favourite romance authors. The sexual tension in this was off the chart. Nora herself is a new favourite heroine of mine. She was so strong, independent, such a well-rounded character in my opinion, and her relationship with her sister was just beautiful. I loved how self-aware this one was. Obviously, like I said, it does talk about books, romance tropes and cliches. It is very aware of the fact that it is a romance novel talking about those things and incorporating those things. Yeah, I just absolutely loved Emily Henry's writing. I flew through this one and I cannot wait to read more of her books. Next up, I have a little bit of a cheat because this is a series rather than just one single book, but I read them on Kindle Unlimited, and if you were to buy them physically, they do all just come as one single book because they're all like 100 to 200 pages each, so I'm counting it. That is the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you will have heard me rave about these books time and time again. This was how I discovered my love for dark romance, because obviously I have been on a huge thriller kick for the months before reading this, and then I started to get into a bit of a romance era, and then I realised that you can put the two together in a dark romance. So in this one we follow Lana, who is a female serial killer who is getting revenge on lots of disgusting men who did absolutely horrible things to her and her brother when she was younger. She is picking them off one by one and killing them in very brutal ways. And then she meets Logan, who just happens to be the FBI agent on her case trying to find out who is committing these murders. The two of them fall in love, and she obviously has to hide the fact that she is the serial killer he is chasing, thing, and he is trying to find this serial killer while keeping this relationship going with his seemingly perfect, beautiful girlfriend. These books are absolutely brutal, I'm not gonna lie to you. They are incredibly violent, but they are also amazing. There is nothing I love more than a woman getting revenge on disgusting men, and she does it in the best ways in this. I also loved how things progressed throughout the books. Like, there was constant twists and turns, there was constant reveals. You do not know anything about this story by the end of the first book. You are left with a cliffhanger at the end of each one, and yeah, I just loved it. Such a good feminist twisted thriller with some good smutty romance as well. Next up I have something very similar, and that is They Never Learn by Fargo. In this one we follow Dr. Scarlett Clark, who, like Lana in the Mindfuck series, is killing disgusting men. She is a professor of English at a university, which kind of gives us little dark academia vibes in this, which is something I really loved about this book. And she is every year choosing one horrible man on the campus to punish for his horrible treatment of women. So she kills one man per year, but when her most recent kill goes a little bit wrong, the investigation hypes up and she is very concerned about being caught. Meanwhile, we have Carly, who is a young student at this university, and she has come here to escape her abusive father. She's looking to start a new life, and all is going well until her roommate is assaulted at a party, and Carly takes it upon herself to try and get revenge on this guy. This one is such a sinister but beautiful book. We've got a strong, sexy female serial killer killing off disgusting men. All of the women in this book are so complex and intelligent and just full of female rage, and I think that is so well done in this. This for me is the ultimate feminist thriller, and it is now my favourite thriller of all time. I'm not sure how anything will top it. I just adore this book and I would recommend it to everyone. And finally, I have one last thriller, and that is Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. I did read this one as part of a thriller 24-hour reading vlog, I believe, and I think I also read They Never Learn in that vlog as well. In this one we follow Adam and Amelia, who are spending the weekend in the Scottish Highlands for their 10-year marriage anniversary, I believe. But all is clearly not great in this relationship. They have gone away to this remote location to try and save their relationship, but then very creepy things start happening while they're there. Some things about the past start to come to light, and it all gets very creepy and sinister and exciting. This one was also my first Alice Feeney book, and I absolutely adored it. This one had the best eerie, creepy vibes. Like, the setting of this is a renovated chapel in the Scottish Highlands with like no one else around. It had incredible twist after incredible twist. Like, I didn't see any of this coming, and I'm still reeling from the shock. That gothic renovated chapel was just everything. Like, probably my favourite thriller setting ever, and all of the little like eerie spooky things that were going on in this did have me reading this in the daylight, because books usually don't get under my skin. Like, films, yes, I watch with the lights on with company to keep me safe. Books I'm usually fine with. This one freaked me the frick out, but in the absolute best way. So yeah, highly recommend. So that is it for my top 10 favourite books of 2022 so far. I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe got some good book recommendations. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you plan to read any of them now that you have watched this video. If you made it to the end of this video, pop the group trio of stars emoji down below just for all of the 5-star books in this video. I don't know, I'm running out of emojis. Pop that emoji down below just to let me know that you made it to the end of this video and that you enjoyed your time here. But as always, if you did enjoy the video, then do please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe for more bookish content from me, comment down below with any of your thoughts and feelings. I do reply to every single comment. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one.